Heyo, folks, what is going on? This is Drew, aka the Supreme Heretic. Of course, I've got my dude Immortal Coil in here tonight with me.
What's happening, guys?
We're rolling the two-man tag team champions of the world because
Ladies, line up.
Because our boy Corey couldn't make it tonight. He is a little bit under the weather or had to get caught up on his rest. And hey, look, dude is a hard-working mofo, so it's excusable. So it's all good in the hood. We're holding it down, and I'm happy to just be chilling here because we got a good show tonight. We're gonna get back to kind of the roots of what the show is supposed to be. We are, after all, the paranormal getaway on Sundays for people, and I recognize that. We've been running a lot of parallel shows because, look, the world runs in parallels, and the shit that's going on in real life, the United Resistance, it's bleeding in to everything because because you look at it. All right, once upon a time, it was a conspiracy theory that secret societies ran the world. No longer. We know this. This is truth. This is truth. Folks, this is truth. And look, let me start off in resistance territory to start on the show because, look, we're on the Prism tonight, but I am going to put it out there right now. So get ready. Clip this if you want, because I promise you I'm going to be right that in the next 3 to 6 months, because they are already starting on the progressive teardown of our banking system as we know it as a society, They are starting on that. They are going to try to do a controlled demolition in the sense, not physically of buildings, but of the banking system to force the digital currency. That is coming. Now, in the next 3 to 6 months, this is where you clip. There will be a cyber attack, a major false flag, cyber terrorism, false flag will be launched in the next 3 to 6 months. I would venture to say the next 3 if they don't pull off the actual controlled demolition that they're trying to do of the banking system. If they can't get it done with the conventional sort of consolidation of the regional and the smaller banks into the big 6 central banks around the globe, well, then you can bet your sweet ass that false flag is coming. I'm putting it out there and I'm putting it on the record, and you can come back and revisit this video on March 13th, 2023 at 12:21 a.m. Remember that I said in the next 3 to 6 months, there will be a major cyber terror attack or just what they call a cyber pandemic. It'll be like a cyber attack. But it is coming.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We got a comment here from RR about the Russians hacking, blah, blah, blah. One of the reasons that, and we were talking about this on Twitter the other day, Drew, one of the reasons why the Russians are so vilified is because they want to do away with the fiat currency system and go back to a gold standard, which is anathema to those in charge. Fractional reserve lending is a thing, folks. They create money out of thin air, and they have you signed on the fucking dotted line up to and including your balls.
Well, I just wanted to put it out there that is fact. That has nothing to do with the unexplained. It has nothing to do with the paranormal. That is patently fact. We are past the whole conspiracy theory of secret societies running the world. The curtain has been pulled back on that. That has been proven to be true because you can see it. The awake can see it. The people that are still hopelessly stuck on, they're stuck in the brainwashing, the psyop. They know nothing except what they're being led around by the nose. Well, then that's their problem. The awake people understand. So let me go ahead before we get on to tonight's actual show topics and say hello to everybody in the chat. I know we started a couple minutes late, and that was because my microphone was not working. I had to get my microphone to register and show up, so that took me a couple extra minutes. Hail to Terminus Est. He's the first that was in the chat. Hail to Chris Mead. Good to see you, my friend. I hope things are going well for you. I know that you've been under some hardship and difficulty, my friend. I am continuing to pray, and I hope that things are better. Keck 44 is here. I see Keck. What's going on, my dude? Great to see you. Dwayne Erickson is in the house. Hail to Dwayne. And, he just recently had a birthday. So everybody in the chat, wish him a happy belated birthday. I actually gave him a call on his birthday, and he and Rita were absolutely tickled pink about that because they are longtime supporters and viewers of this channel almost from day one. So I want to tell them a big thanks from the bottom of my heart, not only for them being such great supporters, but just for being such wonderful people and wonderful friends. They've been, two of the best subscribers that anybody could ask for. RR is in our chat this evening. He is wrenching, and he is also throwing out the emojis on point. As our buddy Small Time Republic points out, hail to RR. Yes, indeed, sir. And Small Time Republic, it's great to see you, my friend, as well. Of course, the aforementioned Rita is also here with Dwayne. And, Coyle is here on the panel. So,
Yes, sir.
he's here. Tree Rock Creations is in the house. Tree Rock, great to see you as well, my friend. I hope things are getting a little bit better for you too. Uh, Chris Mead says Digital Reichstag Theater. That is what is on the horizon, my friend. It really is. It really is. And look, RR is correct when he said it is a big Ponzi scheme. Absolutely. Um, Tehillim is in the house. It's great to see Tehillim here. What's going on, my friend? Awesome to see you as well. And Stream Elements Bot is in the house. What's up, Stream Elements Bot?
One
Hail
of our
the,
most important contributors.
hail the hail the Kronos. What's going on, buddy? Um, Death Angel Shadow just made it in. What's up, Death Angel Shadow? Great to see you. So yeah, look, guys, and we'll touch on this more when I do Resistance on Tuesday, because we got a lot to talk about on Resistance coming up on Tuesday, because I'm going to have a lot to say about the January 6th footage that came out, the whole 9 yards of what's going on. We're going to deep dive more into this situation with the banks and everything else, and we've got a whole lot to get into Tuesday. So Tuesday is going to be crazy in itself. I mean, that we might end up with a 2-hour United Resistance, because my goodness, we're going to have a smorgasbord of things to discuss. But as you know, me being a journalist, I'm going to throw out the important things first, and what's happening with the economy essentially collapsing, the intentional demolition of it. We already could see this coming, so we know what the playbook is. Death Angel Shadow is wishing belated happy birthday to Dwayne. He had a birthday a few days ago. I know that you said yours was last Sunday. Happy birthday to you again. And he just hit 50. I'm going to be 50 next year. Hail to Tina Bojan, the winner of our drawing from last week. So hail to Tina. Also, tonight, by the way, there's no drawing or anything tonight, but if you do want to help out, use the exclamation point tip command, and least ways that will in the interim give me give me a little bit to continue to be able to eat and everything else till the end of the month. Also, we're going to go ahead and I think this week I'll probably do a final push on the Give Send Go, try to get that funded, because we're still only $350 away on that goal. So we can probably hit that, and we'll go from there. But yeah, if you want to help out, just so I could be able to eat and whatever, go ahead and hit the that exclamation point tip and throw something at that. So
now it's also going to help if you guys like the video and share out the link. We want to get the engagement up, make sure everybody knows about Midnight Prism.
Yeah, absolutely. So paranormal things. I know that the latest in paranormal stuff. I know I've been watching lately a lot of Sasquatch stuff, but I always watch. Those of you that know me, you guys know what a Squatch head I am. So I watch like Sasquatch stuff like mad. So it's not out of the realm of the ordinary for me to be to be watching Sasquatch stuff, but yeah, I have been, and I was watching actually today, which kind of put me in the mood to do this topic for the show. That you
Drew's in a
know
mood.
the Ohio Sasquatch. You guys, as you know, I'm born and raised Ohio. I live in Northeast Ohio up here in Lorain. So I live on Lake Erie. So I'm really not in Squatch territory, but in Eastern Ohio, down by Tuscarawas County, there's an area known as kind of the Bigfoot Triangle of Ohio, if you will. Um, that is of very interesting significance. There's a park, national park, the Great Salt Fork National Park is down there, and that has all the markings of habitat for a Sasquatch. And it's funny to tie this into my my investigation I did into the stuff that happened, the very real life stuff that happened into East Palestine. There was a representative from the Ohio ODNR there. And I turned the camera off and I asked the guy straight up, and I was very impressed that he actually took the question seriously and actually addressed it. Because I asked this gentleman from the ODNR, I said, listen, given the situation that just happened, especially with most wildlife and animals and everything else, I said, do you think that an animal such as, for example, a Sasquatch would have a challenge, an ecological challenge, given what we know of their potential habitat and their migration pattern, their pattern of movement? Do you think that they would have difficulty? Would this situation cause them difficulty?
Very good
And
question.
and the man, to his credit, because as we know, if you ask people questions about Sasquatch, one of two things happen. They look at you like you have three heads, or they take the question seriously. Now, this guy actually did take the question seriously because he knew I was coming at it from the standpoint of, all right, hypothetically, if there was such a creature, and given what we know of them so far, what would
Hmm.
this do?
Hmm.
And he said, I see it with the particular problems with the air and water that in the interim, yes, there would be a challenge for such an animal if they are out there. And I give the guy all the credit in the world. He didn't have to answer that question. And most skeptics would, again, look at you like you have three heads and just laugh it off. But the guy was actually he seemed very eager to answer it, given, and he kind of lit up when I asked the question, which was
Sure.
actually, really cool.
It's a very astute question. And honestly, a couple weeks ago when this event was first breaking out, we did go into the Mount St. Helens impact to the Sasquatch population. There were reports of bodies being found and
Yes.
cleanup crews and things of that nature. Now, I would like to think that Bigfoot is an intelligent creature. Maybe not along the lines of us, but when we're speaking of the Grassman in particular, he gets his name because he's been known to build little huts, which
Hmm.
indicates forethought, intelligence. He knows he's out in the elements, and he doesn't. There's no huge cave systems out there, so what's he going to do, right? And if he knew that there was going to be a huge environmental impact to his territory, he would most likely have to leave or deal with that somehow. Very good question.
I want to say hello to Hetty because Hetty Lamar, she is been subbed to my channel for a long time. I remember I met Hetty a very long time ago in John Tox's chat, and we hit it off. And and she also watches John B. Wells from time to time. Hetty and I share a lot of interests, but she has always been a very supportive and wonderful friend. And Hetty, thank you for popping in tonight and hanging out with us. I really love to see you, dear. And you know, I just, I agree with you, Coyle. We have to look at this, and I understand both sides of the thinking, because anytime we have a talk about Sasquatch on the channel, there are people that say, well, there's not enough proof that they're around, da da da. And I counter with, all right, we've seen the plaster casts, we've seen we've seen the Patterson Gimlin film, we've seen there's also been reports people have found, feces from it. So, I would have to say, and Chuck, I am of that school of thought myself, and this is why. Because Kronos says, what is the plural of Bigfoot's? Big feet? I wonder about that. But I look at it like this, all right? I try to take this in the sense of the plausible and move out to the kind of implausible, but also still within the realm of, okay, even though it's implausible, doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And I approach it from that sense. I have had an interest in the legend of Sasquatch in this idea of an uncatalogued species of giant, hominid.
Yeah.
Since I was a boy, I would, I remember. God, Coyle, did you ever see the Legend of Boggy Creek?
Yes.
And that movie tripped me out, and I remember, shout out to Leonard Nimoy, may he rest in peace. I watched In Search of as a kid.
Oh yeah, very good.
And the stuff that they would have on there about Bigfoot was awesome. You have some great evidence, like Richard Moorhead, I believe, that did the Sierra Sounds. The Sasquatch species themselves, they have a language. Yes. I really do believe that this is another intelligent species that is uncatalogued. Now, we can get into the separate discussion, the wider discussion. Do they have higher ability, which meaning along the sense of, there have been various things reported, such as almost a telepathic connection. Certain people have felt almost a connection where the Sasquatch communicated to them on a somewhat mind level. There have been people that have also reported seeing things akin to portals that these things come in and out of. There have been people that have said that these things can dematerialize, essentially, or run around cloaked, a la the Predator, or that they turn into another form all of themselves, which is the little orbs that they say that these things can disappear into. It depends which school of thought that you're in. I tend to approach it more, as Chuck said, from the scientific standpoint, that it is, to me, in the plausible and uncatalogued species. But I will not necessarily discount the presence of higher abilities. Because as we know, these creatures do possess, at the very baseline, basic intelligence. If they're building, as you said, Coyle, if they're building, in the case of the Grassman, a big nest that is like
Shelter. Yeah.
10 feet by such and such wide that they can actually sleep under and take shelter from the elements, that demonstrates to me rudimentary intelligence, at least. Well above rudimentary intelligence.
Sure. The other thing that I find fascinating is the idea that if these beings or creatures, whatever they may be, are widespread, then it would make sense that regional populations would take on different approaches to solving common problems. So the beings in the Pacific Northwest have a lot more, like rock and trees and things like that to deal with. But in the plains, they would necessarily have to adapt themselves to what they found there. Also interesting to me is if they are creating shelters out of grass or whatever, Ohio, particularly the encounters in Ohio, those beings are demonstrating territoriality, if that's a word, territorialism. That's what I mean to say.
Well,
You know,
their natural habitats are, and understand this. They have a way of migration. So throughout where we've had the biggest hotspots of them, Ohio is probably about the fourth largest or the fourth biggest region for Sasquatch sightings per capita in America. Obviously the Pacific Northwest is king, but they're scattered all over the country, folks. They
right.
are. There's been sightings in nearly every part of the country. But the thing is, yes, Hetty, absolutely. The Smokies, Tennessee is another one that has quite a few. And
Yep.
Kentucky,
Florida.
big time in Kentucky. But if you look out like at the basics of how they migrate, they move along water. They move along, they have a tendency to go with power lines. That's why, water, they follow creeks, rivers, streams. They use that as rudimentary navigation. That's why you see a lot of times there'll be sightings of them crossing roads
Mm-hmm.
because they'll be moving from one, tributary to another to follow it.
Yeah, we caught some on some traffic cams up here in the passes, the mountain passes. Which again, if they're following rivers, if they're following trails and things like that, that kind of gives an indication of what their food supply might be. So
yeah,
I would hypothesize they're omnivorous. They're either
they're definitely omnivores. They
yeah,
live on meat. And Hetty is correct. You got to have water to live, and they also live on meat. They also live on deer and game like that, but they also live on grubs and plants and things like that.
sure.
They have a varied diet. They are omnivores. A lot of people have reported that they also fish. They've
Yeah.
seen them, they've seen them in the creeks and the rivers fishing before. There have been sightings like that as well. So, they go
Wasn't
in there.
wasn't there a place out there where it was like somebody's cabin and one of the Bigfoot had gotten into the cabin and left behind like they scratched themselves on something and got into the pantries and so they know that there's food to be had there and they're going after the same sort of things that we would eat.
I think I saw that, Coil. I believe there was an episode of Monster Quest like that where they talked about that. I remember that, and it's very interesting. But the bottom line of it is, look, all of these forested areas, and especially that part of Ohio, and I know I haven't necessarily been to that part of Ohio, but I can tell you folks, when you go to, like the Salt Fork area, get into that Tuscarawas County, that part of Ohio that they call the Bigfoot Triangle, man, it is heavily, heavily, heavily forested. Very thick forest, a lot of tall grass, a lot of places. And there's a lot of natural creeks and streams down there that they can, have sustenance and access to water. And so it is believable that it would ecologically over the decades support, a Sasquatch population. And it's obvious to me that there's a population because there have been reports and sightings of everything from juveniles to females to males, and they all vary in size.
Sure. The Patterson creature has
Was a
breath.
female. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a female.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, it's also interesting to me, you were talking about potential methods of communication, because in instances where they've come across humans where the humans aren't terrified, eye contact seems to be a big thing. And if there is, if the idea that they might have some sort of telepathic thing, although there is also been purported evidence of Bigfoot calling, and it sounds like a scream or a whistle or something along those lines.
Well, they communicate a lot in whoops and
Yes.
whistles and things like that. Now, I've heard of more sinister things. There have been reports, and this is interesting, folks. If you ever get into the if any of you are into where you read up on mysterious disappearances or things like that, and you get into the whole idea of the missing 411 phenomenon, and you look
Mhm.
into like the stuff that David Paulides wrote about, look into just kind of put Sasquatch in that mix, because there have been, interestingly enough, instances where they said that I forget which exact I want to say it might be in Alaska or somewhere else, but there was one legend where there was a Bigfoot like creature, and they drew out children and women to whisk away by mimicking the sounds of a crying baby, or other sounds, the sounds of a pet or things like that. So apparently
Hmm.
they do have the ability to mimic other animals as well. I mean, and and you have to wonder, do these things have a capacity, um to have a wild instinct, whereas, some of them may be aggressive, whereas some of them are docile. You know, it seems that that's the case in a lot of these things, because more oftentimes than not, most Sasquatch stay to themselves. They don't want to be seen. They don't want to be um, tracked. They usually, other than scaring humans out of their territory, they're usually not aggressive. Um, Chuck
Right.
says that particular thing sounds more like a skinwalker legend, where with the mimicking of sound, and yes, it does. Hetty says lots of witchcraft in the old mountains too. Yeah, you know. RR says Nephilim. Time to drink.
There we go.
Nephilim. And hail to another monster. I saw another monster was here earlier. Hail to you, brother. But
Well, yeah. So I was going through some of the lore about the Grassman in particular, and where there are contacts with humans, there tends to be a little bit more conflict in the incidents described, but nothing deadly. I did read about one instance where somebody reported that their dog's neck had been broken, but that to me could be interpreted as a defensive action, because the dog wasn't mutilated or like eaten or butchered or anything like that. Um, and if they do value their privacy or their territorial or their ability to be on the down low, you know, and human encroachment would be a big concern to them.
Yeah, why Hetty says, why can't we nab one? Um, I do believe eventually that they will at some point find one. I do believe that there has been some killed, but I think that the government does conceal the existence of this species for whatever reason. Um, Radioactive, hail to radioactive. He said, "Where is the scat trail?" There's been some found radioactive, apparently, and it's been analyzed and come up not to be of any known species. So we'll see. But again, until we have a definitive thing like bones or a body, we just don't know. We just really don't know.
So I'm going to go ahead and agree with you about the suppression because there is a big push by the powers that be to assert that human beings are the only intelligent creatures currently on Earth. Whereas there have been legends about Bigfoot type beings from the natives, from, you know, early accounts. There's also evidence that there might be a native reptilian race that evolved and live underground. You know,
Dude,
again,
there was a guy that actually, and this kind of crisscrosses into giants, but
yeah,
there was a
giants are
guy
another
that
one.
there was a guy that had the you know that had footage supposedly of a giant, and I mean, my goodness, dude, it ended up where the guy showed it or shared it online or something, and the guy ended up disappearing after a while.
Oh, sure.
Like,
Um,
like he legit got disappeared.
Yeah. Well, again, like if we suddenly came to the conclusion that there's more intelligent species besides human beings operating on Earth at this time, then that destabilizes the government, that destabilizes religion, all sorts of things. Along the lines of giants, there was a supposedly in Afghanistan they encountered a giant, the Kandahar giant in the caves of Afghanistan, and they had to send special forces to go out and take the thing out because it was killing regular army dudes with like a spear. And same thing, it was huge, red hair, five finger fist, all that kind of shit.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, there's a big active suppression here, you know, and I personally think that yeah, it would be nice to go out and nab one, but who's going to do it? Because like everybody nowadays they got their eyes on their phone and their thumbs on their fucking touch screen. They're not going to go out and catch anything.
I just wonder about. I just wonder what it's going to take to actually find one of these things. Because I do believe that that they are their own race. I do believe that the Sasquatch people are their own race, and that they exist. I really do. I mean, I trust the Native Americans on this. And the Native Americans treat them like as if they're another tribe,
Absolutely, isn't a word.
you know? So and there's a possibility
Yeah.
this may be an ancient tribe.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Um. Well, and that's the thing is, native culture except amongst each other for some reason. But when they were out in the elements, they regarded other animal species as different kinds of tribes. Like bear had a certain thing, foxes had a certain thing, wolves have a certain thing, but Sasquatch was always different because it was more man-like. Whereas when they talked about encountering red giants, they were hostile and they went after them. They killed them.
Well, that's why, and it's my hope, and maybe it's because, look, I'm a believer in hunting and living off the land and doing what you need to do to survive. But when it comes to a great grand creature like a Sasquatch, I do hope if one does get found and it is, mainstream cataloged and everything, I just hope this. I hope that they put it on and I imagine it will be on the protected species list almost immediately because there's not a whole lot of them as much as they are in so many states around our country. I still don't think there's a whole lot of them, and I think they probably would go into protected status pretty quickly. But I hope that they do because they're grand creatures. They should be protected.
Oh
And
yeah,
you don't need a bunch of fucking yahoos out there to shoot them.
no,
Now,
definitely not.
now look, I'll go on the other side of the argument uh, and say, look, if there are, if you get a case of one that's aggressive, and I know that Terminus just mentioned a case where there was supposedly a special forces platoon that was tasked with actually taking an aggressive Sasquatch out. And there's more than one story out there about that, Terminus. I actually read one where there was a couple spec up snipers tasked with taking one out too, and this was oh god, around the Lake D area. So this wasn't the first time I've heard a story of the military, in some form or fashion, tangling with the Sasquatch. But I hope in general, though, that the species does get the protection it deserves.
Absolutely. I would even venture to say that they would probably be close to endangered, if not technically
Hmm.
endangered.
They are.
Um, yeah, because we're just encroaching on their territory. We're polluting the. I'm going to sound like a hippie right now, but you know, I, I'm fairly certain that as we grow and expand and get out there, there's less and less places for these things to go to. So if they are 4D, maybe they're gonna just say fuck it and just go 4D permanently.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's very interesting. I just hope that you know these creatures get protected because I do feel that they have earned that, especially given the fact that you know, look, they were here first. That's all that's all my point is on it. They were here probably long before man.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. When I hears Terminus saying it was a tribe of Sasquatch, not an individual, the soldiers were killing them. I think it was a coast to coast interview.
very interesting.
Yeah, and then that begs the question. So there were assets that went out there and dealt with a population. Obviously, there had to be some kind of a cleanup and some disposal. And that's not an uncommon situation. I hear about teams like this that deal with downed UFO retrieval. And in the cases where there's bodies and things like that, they have to come through and sanitize the site. So if they can do that with UFOs, it's probably a lot easier to do it with a being like Sasquatch.
No, no. Tommy, I think you got it confused, man. That's a different tribe. That's a different tribe that wants some reparations. You know, think you find those down at like the Westgate Gardens down the road from a
That's right.
little ways.
The guinea pigs are going to take care of the extra fingers and toes.
Oh man, it's just a fascinating topic because anytime that we talk about the various legends of these creatures, they're awesome, and there seem to be different types of them because Missouri has one called Momo, Ohio has the Ohio Grassman. There's a lot of other ones around. Obviously the Yeti is its own thing, the abominable snowman. So yeah, it seemed to be there's like variants of these things. So quite interesting.
So you live out there. Have you personally, or do you know anybody who has had an encounter or a sighting of the Grassman?
I have not met anybody. There was a Sasquatch symposium they had actually locally here in my county. I want to say about 4, maybe 5 years ago that I attended, and there was a presentation that the ODNR did about Bigfoot and the Grassman and stuff like that. But I haven't met anybody that's actually done the had a I haven't talked to a person that has actually had a sighting proper. So I want to definitely I wanted to desperately go on a BFRO expedition. I was on the list to go on one back in 2012, and had it not been the time where unfortunately my dad had taken a turn from the worst and he was going to pass away soon, I would have went on that expedition. But I didn't ever get the opportunity to go because I really wanted to go on the BFRO expedition.
That'd probably be a good thing to think about for the channel one of these days. And it's interesting. So I have never seen a Bigfoot personally, but they do have research centers up here in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, there's a ton of them up there, dude.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I live in Washington State. Right down on the border in Oregon is a town called the Dalles, and that's one of the biggest research centers out there. Actually, I think the some of those places were used for the location shoots of Harry and the Hendersons, which I know it's a silly movie, but it kind of treats the subject of Sasquatch more of like well, what if it's more man-like than animal-like, but still like towards the animal side, sort of like the Gigantopithecine or something like that. Yeah. Looks like Drew's on the mute here. So yeah, we got 17 of you guys in here. We want to make sure that we're getting all the likes. Go ahead and share out the link because we do enjoy talking about these kind of things. You guys are the ones that can keep this thing afloat here. I do enjoy the idea of cryptids, and particularly Sasquatch, I feel, is one of the more plausible ones. It's unfortunate, though, in the sort of research for tonight leading up to this, sort of brushing up on stuff, it seems to me that a lot of the recent content has been of dubious quality. It's that thing where there's kids putting on hair suits and walking around like screaming in the forest and going like, what's that, like jump scare sort of video, which seriously pollutes the idea of actual research into this sort of phenomenon. And unfortunately, those are the kind of things that keep this sort of thing a fringe topic. Monster Quest, like the TV show and the History Channel in particular, has really taken a fucking shit as far as quality goes. Because you can float out an idea and talk about it seriously for about 15 minutes, and then they pay a bunch of like yokels to sit around in their hats and their beards and their suspenders and tie up some 550 to a bent piece of twig or something and say like, yeah, we're gonna wait here for the rest of the night and see if we can find something, get it on like camera, and knocking on trees and whistling and whooping. It's just one of those things like journalism and sensational like yellow journalism will really put cryptozoology into a bad light, like a worse light than it already has. A couple years back, I want to say like 2012, 2013ish, somewhere in there. There was a big thing on the internet where somebody had claimed to have found a Bigfoot, and they put it on ice, and they were going. It was like a couple of guys, and I think they were in Oregon. They might have been Washington, but they had something on ice that they were going to reveal to the public as, hey, we got one, we got a body. So, but it was disproven. It's like spirit Halloween masks, and they just stuff it full of shit, and then they're trying to get their 15 minutes. Which is sad. This subject should be taken seriously until it's unequivocally disproven. And I don't know, like I think like we live in an era where we have enough equipment available to the independent researcher that if we wanted to mount an investigation, it would be plausible and possible, because the cost of technology is coming down, all that kind of stuff.
There is I know some people were talking about in the chat. I'm catching up on the chat here. There are some 911 calls about Sasquatch, and it's funny because guy saw one in his yard. He was like, "It's so after my dog and stuff." So he was upset, but he's like, there's a big motherfucker in my yard." That's basically what he said.
Right. I don't know if Sasquatch eats dogs, but I sure do eat cat.
Rita asks, why are there so many pics and video footage of everything that goes on, but when it comes to ghosts and Sasquatch, every pic and video is never clear? Well, that goes into, again, and I've seen some things lately where the thing is and hail to Eren, by the way. I didn't shout out Eren. I see Eren's here. The interesting thing about it is I've seen where technical equipment has like actually failed, and this is not only with ghost activity that you see this happen with Bigfoot activity from time to time. People will set up a trail cam. The trail cam will either come up destroyed or it like the battery just fails on that, and it could be fully charged.
Well, and if we're dealing with a multispectral phenomenon, that can certainly short out electronics. UFOs have been able to stop vehicles from functioning, and radios back, and obviously there's very few clear, credible daylight UFO. So yeah, if there's an element of these things that go beyond just the 5 sense sensory band that we occupy, our technology could be sorted out.
Yeah, It's very interesting. Actually, Dwayne the cat just wants attention. He's a baby like that. He wants
He
attention.
heard me say that I eat cat, and he got all nervous.
No, he just wants attention, man. These cats, they ham it up. I put out a picture on my Twitter earlier today where I actually got a rare picture of both Apollo and Gambit, like laying down together, actually being brothers for 5 minutes before they started bitching each other out. So that was that was interesting.
Death Angel says he has some footage from Area 51. I'd be interested to
Oh,
see that,
nice.
buddy.
Absolutely. And yes, Hetty, I know that Hetty had a question here. What is your question? Or else she has taken, she's either taken off or she has a question, one of the two. But, she said, I got to figure that out. Bless you. Hope you carry. Yes, I do. I actually, I got a story about that, guys, but I'm going to save it for United Resistance on Tuesday. The short of it was the other day, and I actually had one of my friends over. She was in my room watching TV. I was standing in the doorway of my room and I was talking to her. We were kind of having a loose conversation, and she looked and thought she saw something out of the corner of her eye in the backyard. Um, hey, Hetty, take care of yourself, and we will see you soon as well. So be well. I'm always praying for you. God bless you, and I will see you soon.
Yeah.
But
Thanks for coming by, Hetty.
But the interesting thing about this was, there was a gentleman, very short, stocky. I want to say probably about 5'7", 5'8". Um, you know, Prominent Mexican features, and then he was standing in my backyard because my friend screamed, and the cat, my cat Gambit, was going nuts. He was trying to like paw at the window, and it was enough to kind of throw a bit of a scare into my friend. And then about a minute and a half later, a lady comes around, very Mexican looking lady, and she's standing there and they're looking particularly at the screened in porch in the back of my house. And the lady like walked up to the door of it, and I was thinking, what the hell are these people going to do? Are they trying to get in? So I grabbed the pistol, I grabbed the 9mm, and I threw it on my side, and as they made their way around, because it looks like they were going back around towards the front, I ran out the front door, and rabbit slug. It was pretty obvious they were they were Mexicans. That they had very prominent Mexican features. Believe me, and living in this town, there's a sizable Hispanic population in this town. You know the difference, because if you don't know the difference between Mexican and Puerto Ricans in this town, it'll get your ass whooped.
You should show those mongoloid pictures I sent you in the chat.
Well, no, they didn't look like that. But
that was some fucked up shit. Man.
But the thing is, I went out to confront the guy, and he could clearly see that I had a firearm on me. So
it's 2A country, baby.
He glanced at the firearm and glanced back up at me, and I said, "Can I help you?" And he said, "The house for sale, house for sale." And he could barely speak English. And yes, I said, "The house is for sale." I said, "Unfortunately, it's under contract now and is in process." So He said how much price, and I said probably I said it's around 150 160,000, and he said, oh, okay. So
Rabid Slug's making songs for you. He's doing some
yeah, I know.
Aerosmith in the chat.
Nice. So they get into this red SUV and take off. Obviously, a few minutes later, I called the cops and I reported it, gave them the license number. And it was really sketchy to begin with, guys, because look, if you see a sign in the yard, which this guy tried to play it off that he saw the sign in the yard, which was why he was walking the property, because I said, excuse me, why were you walking my property? He just said, "Oh, I thought a house was for sale." Blah. But my thing is, why would you not? Anybody with common sense would knock on the front door and just say, "Hi, I saw a sign in the yard. Was the property for sale?" Okay, that's fine. That's understandable. But when you just sit there and arbitrarily trespass my property, I have an issue with that. And absolutely scare the bejesus out of my friend and my pets, or agitate my pets. Yeah, I have a problem with that. So that's exactly was my first thought. Death Angels. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I was going to
And
bring that up too.
and
Do you have a big homeless population out there?
yes.
Yeah.
And the very interesting thing about this too, guys, is one of the things that we're not proud of here in Ohio, but it's a fact of life in a lot of these places, and especially in like democratic cities, which unfortunately I live in a democratic city. Okay.
Sorry.
And this is the 10th largest city in Ohio, by the way. We have a very big fentanyl problem, as do most
Oh yeah.
Midwest cities. Anyway, long story short, on top of it, these people looked like they were hopped up on something, especially the woman. And she looked like she was almost in a fucking trance.
Yeah, Radioactive's got it right there, spot on.
But and that's exactly what I thought. Radioactive was something akin to that, and they had a. If you folks have seen those license plate covers that have like a tint to them, they're tinted license plate covers, so it's hard to read the plate. But I still got the plate number. I gave it to the police. And since I called and reported it to the police, I haven't seen those people back on my property. And I never heard back from the police if they found them or not or whatever. But apparently it's been dealt with, whatever. Okay. So that was a very interesting experience that I had. And I'm going to recount that story again on Tuesday. But man, I'm telling you, like, I went out there hollow points at the ready.
There you go.
I mean, I wasn't fucking around. I have a woman I had a woman at that point in my house, and I had my pets here. I'm going to defend life and property no matter what. And if these people would have made this very stupid mistake of trying to gain forcible entry, well, let's just say they would have been dragging them out.
Right. You wouldn't have had to worry about cat food for a couple weeks.
No. It was just it was a scary situation. And I say, and I'm a person that, I don't ever want to have to shoot somebody. As a firearm owner, a responsible firearm owner, you never want to be brought to that course of action. where you know that you have to shoot somebody. And I don't want that. But there are certain times when you have to take action. And, while I'm prepared to do that, I don't want it to come to that. I want that to be the last resort rather than the rule.
Sure. Anybody with reverence for life would feel the same way.
But yes, if I have to draw, if I have to use it, you're darn tootin', I am gonna go center mass and not think twice.
There you go. With tears in my eyes and sorrow in my heart, I will take you the fuck out.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was very interesting, and I really do agree with some of the other opinions in the chat. I think those people were looking for a squatter situation. We've heard and seen myriad stories across this country of people running into where they've had their house on the market, whatever, gone to temporarily live at another property or live with friends or stay with family, whatever. They come back expecting that their house is going to be sold, and boom, somebody's squatting in their house. The sale's all screwed up because it can't go through because they have squatters. Then they have to go through an eviction process and the whole 9 yards. It's absolutely insane. But this is what happens. This is where we're at in our country. Because again, the government refuses to take the homeless situation seriously. And part of it is they're hoping that they're looking the other way because they're hoping that turns into a potential thing that they can use as a crisis when the time's right for them as well. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I used to work for a construction company, and we'd go and flip houses. And squatters would come and sit down right before we were able to start work. We legally couldn't do anything. We couldn't finish the house at all. We had to wait for the city or whoever to come through with their permits and give all the notification, all that shit. And they're just sitting there for like 3, 4, 5 months.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, we took a turn off topic, folks, and I'm sorry. I derailed the conversation, but we'll get more into that story Tuesday because we got a whole lot to cover on resistance. But to kind of wrap up our talk about the Grassman, this particular creature is super interesting, and I like the fact that there is a variance in kind of the different types of Bigfoot as it would seem, and it's almost like regional because some states have more they have ones with different looking features compared to others. It's super super interesting to me. But the bottom line is, whatever these are, I do believe we're closer to the truth. Same way as I believe that we're closer to the truth about UFOs. And before we go, there is a video here where this video, as we do our paranormal roundup, this kind of shows a UFO, maybe out of now this isn't a foreign language, so don't ask me to translate. But this is in a volcano in Mexico, I believe. Just watch this and see what you folks think of it.
Esta extraordinaria grabación fue obtenida por medio de la cámara de monitoreo volcánico de tercer milenio, que se encuentra ubicada en Paso de Cortés, a tan solo 6 kilómetros del cráter del volcán Popocatépetl, el día 6 de marzo del 2023, a las 3 de la madrugada con 3 minutos. Un enorme cilindro aparece por la parte de atrás del lado derecho del Popocatépetl y asciende de forma completamente vertical hacia el espacio. Incluso, podemos apreciar cómo este objeto atraviesa las nubes, lo que nos revela que éste se encontraba muy próximo al volcán. Se trata, sin temor a equivocarnos, de un objeto transmedio que se eleva de esta forma. En cámara lenta, podemos apreciar la forma en que aparece literalmente, en este punto por detrás del cuerpo del volcán. Parece como si estuviera despegando, literalmente de esa zona, y su ascenso es rápido, y directamente hacia el espacio, si ponemos atención.
Now, listen, that to me is very interesting because, you know, we've heard of UFO bases in the Earth. We've heard that there are UFO bases under the sea. It's very interesting. So I don't know what to make of that because again, it looks like a missile.
Yeah.
As somebody said, it could have been a missile launch. But why would they have a missile base or a SAM site or anything on a mountain just sitting there in New Mexico of all places? I don't know.
Well, it looked to me that there was some visible exhaust and then there was some curve to the trajectory of the object. UFOs, at least the ones we're talking about, don't have a chemical exhaust and they travel in straight lines.
Okay.
I would be willing to say that if there are missiles and rockets, I mean, they've been shooting shit down the past couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that would be my guess. But you know, Tommy seems to think that it's you shooting your wad off into the space. It's a Drew's missile.
Yeah, damn it. Damn Drew's missile.
We caught you on fucking footage, dude. Just admit it.
Footage of the Drew's missile, yes. Yeah. Damn it.
Yeah, dude.
Well, I'll tell you one thing though. There is quite an interesting thing where you know, speaking and I got to give credit to Tucker Carlson right now because look, I don't care where you're at as far as the spectrum of Fox News. You don't have to like it. I don't necessarily love it or hate it. It's just there. It's part of the mainstream machine, so I don't trust it. But what I do a lot of times is I will give credit where it's due. I trust Tucker Carlson's journalism to a fairly decent degree. I do commend what he's done with the January 6th stuff, which again we'll get into on Tuesday. But there's a very interesting clip, and I want you to find this on Twitter because this goes right along with our what we talk about here on the Prism. And this is Tucker. He was a guest on what's called the Full Send podcast, but he talked about UAPs, UFOs, and he said it's 100% a cover up. And he said, look, they've had crash retrievals in the whole 9 yards, and it's a 10-minute clip. I don't want to play the whole thing, but I want you to hear just a smattering of it because I do think that this is important and relevant to understanding what's happening here. So I want to share this, and we'll play a little bit of this before we go. But check this out, folks. This is super interesting. It really is, and you know, and Tucker has been covering this stuff because he's one of the few people I've seen from the mainstream ever just sit there and talk UFOs openly on a show. And he does. So check this out.
Tiered at 50,
The evidence.
which is what?
Well, oh my gosh. At this
like
point, at this point, it's kind of come out actually. The Pentagon was required by the last defense authorization bill to like produce some of their files on UFOs, and it turns out they have known about this since the end of the Second World War, which ended in 1945. Been a huge
I'm having some buffering issues on it, but
increase.
Too much truth for the internet
as well. Huge increase in UFO sightings, in UFO crashes, et cetera, et cetera. And it turns out the federal government has been tracking this for 80 years and lying about it. So why? Well, that's a great question, and I can't answer it. I have theories, but I don't know. But here's what I learned. The first question is this real? Or am I just being a crazy person who's spending too much time on the internet? Well, this summer, we got a call. We didn't reach out. This person called us. Lexi, who's standing right there, who's a genius, one of our producers, gets this call from this guy who's a tenured Stanford medical school professor. He wants to come on the show. Now, this guy has a couple patents, and so he's rich. And he's got tenure at one of the most prestigious schools in the world. So, like, he's not a flake. He comes on and he's like, 11 years ago, the U.S. government reached out to me because I'm an expert on head injuries, on brain injuries, traumatic brain injuries, as a physician. And they had all these court cases from families of U.S. servicemen, over 100, who'd been killed by UFOs. And the Department of Defense was refusing to give them death benefits or medical benefits. And I'm like, and he's like, so they're in the courts. And I was like, there are over 100 servicemen killed by UFOs? Like, what?
in the pursuit of.
Yeah. And there are court cases about it. I'm like, why isn't this on the front page of the New York Times? I don't know. But he goes, I'm involved in it. I'm one of the researchers. I'm the expert witness in these cases. Holy shit. What does that mean? And he's like, for example, UFOs appear to be attracted for whatever reason to nuclear energy. So at nuclear missile bases in the upper Midwest, for example, nuclear powered aircraft carriers, nuclear powered submarines are all getting buzzed by these objects, including underwater. And in a number of cases, these things have landed on military bases, including famously in Germany, in West Germany in the 70s. And servicemen have approached them. Like, what is this thing? There's this like giant glowing thing on the base. And they approach and they get traumatic brain injury.
That's by an account on Twitter called UAP James. You can watch the rest of the video there. But just that excerpt that we played, that 2 minutes, should tell you all you need to know. I mean, my goodness, that blows it wide open, and you wonder to the degree that the cover up goes.
Yeah,
I mean, it's very. It's very interesting.
Well, sure. Well, you got these guys that are basically what he's saying is he was contacted by the people who have to deal with the legalities of how come these people's loved ones aren't getting benefits from their service people who died in the duty, either as a result of chasing UFOs or dealing with UFOs or.
Well, Coyle, remember the Rendlesham incident and radioactive is and I think that's what he was referencing to, radioactive. The Rendlesham incident, those people, were affected by and exposed to not only radiation, but to some other things in that situation. And I mean, you wonder if, and that's a very big deal. If they were exposed to radiation and nothing was at dangerous levels at that, because who knows what that craft was emitting.
Well, and they They also want to see what the dumb monkeys are doing playing around with nuclear energy.
Why would you not? Why would? Well, it's easy to say why our government wouldn't take care of them because they don't really care about
We are
people.
tactically incapable of resisting a UFO. If they wanted to come down and fuck us up, they totally could.
But they're, but I think that the truth is on the verge of coming out about that, because if you have these type of whistleblowers coming out, like this guy that reached out to Tucker Carlson, or people reaching out to major journalism sources in general, maybe the cover up is finally going to get taken away. Now, there's two components to this, folks, and my goodness, this could get into a whole nother lengthy hour discussion.
Oh, yeah.
because we have the side of this that RR and I both believe, and a lot of other of us in the chat believe, a lot of these are man-made, and we have the man-made component to it because we all know about the globalists and their plans for Blue Beam and the whole 9 yards there. But then there is a component of this that is in the higher mystery realm, that some of these are legitimately not of this world. Now, we can argue where they come from. Do they come from space? Are they from, are they based under the water? Do they come from another dimension?
Yes.
That's debatable. We don't know. I
Well,
tend to lean on the fact that perhaps it's a little more plausible that it's interdimensional.
Well, and it's tempting to make it an either or thing when this phenomenon has elements of all of it. But I think the more nefarious thing is not, are aliens coming down and going to use their technology against us? No, it's
Well,
our government is using alien technology against us.
and that's the problem. That's the problem too. People have a preconceived notion automatically that it's just, because it goes with that romantic question of, are we alone in the universe? And people love to believe that we're not alone in the universe. I don't necessarily believe that we're alone in the universe either. But we have to take off our hats, our sci-fi fan hats, our pop culture hats, and stop looking at it through the lens of it's something out of Star Trek, or it's something out of one of the various sci-fi movies we've watched, because it may not be that at all. It may be an interdimensional thing. RR says we aren't alone, and look, I have to lean that way too. But again, I think it's very much more plausible that the interdimensional thing is the direction to look in. The very bottom line of all of it is the truth has eventually come out, because all of this cover up that there is on every single level, whether it be the depopulationists, whether it be the globalists and the nationalists fighting their little neo-feudalism war over who's going to be the better authoritarian. Because in the end, folks, guess what? We lose either way. They're going to find a way to be authoritarians one way or the other. And that's why I have to tell all of you that, sorry, bad news. Republicans aren't great and Democrats aren't great. There's not one that's better than the other. If you want to think that, whichever one conforms more to your, I guess, sensibilities is the better one. Sure, you can look at it that way, but as Tommy would say, I don't trust any damn politician. I mean, Tommy is spot on about that, and you shouldn't, because there is no one man coming to save us, or one woman. It is a uniparty, as Rita says right there. Hello, it's a uniparty. Don't fall into the tribalistic party bullshit. Do not fall into the division psyop, which
That's a
is
distraction. Yep.
every single distraction that there is, whether it be political affiliation, whether it be religion, whether it be race, whichever, but that's the thing. In radioactive, yes, I assume you're aware that the DoD IC looks at UFO as the best cover story they never had to create and maintain. Absolutely. And I do believe revelations are
Chris. Yes.
Revelations are coming out soon about the entirety of our existence. But for now, we will leave it there because we're going on an hour and a half. I do want to get scooting because it's 1:45. I do want to get some sleep.
That's right. He's got some Mexicans to get off his lawn.
So I thank you, as always, friends, for hanging out. Again, if you want to help out in the interim, obviously, things are in a difficult position right now. If you use the exclamation point tip command, that does help. That will help the channel more than anything right at the moment. But as I said, we've got United Resistance coming Tuesday, and we're going to really get into the January 6th prisoners, the January 6th narrative, the collapsing narrative in general, because I do believe we're on the verge of a major, major truth revolution. And also, don't forget, like I told you folks at the top of the broadcast, that you can take it to the bank that cyber attack, cyber terrorism bullshit will be the next big false flag, and it'll be in the next 3 to 6 months. So don't forget that. Keep an eye on that, because that for sure is coming. If they don't succeed with their regular controlled demolition of the banking system in general, then they will go with the cyber attack. And Klaus Schwab has already told you. So, all right, until next week, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. I will let Immortal Coil tell you what he's got going on, and then we are going to get out of here, folks. So go ahead.
Hey, I appreciate you, Drew. What is going on, my savage friends? I appreciate you guys showing up. Appreciate every single one of you. Immediately after this, we're going to go over to my channel. I got the Savage Spirituality coming up. I do get fired up by these topics, and I do enjoy talking about this. I do have some experience in these realms, so if you are as hungry as I am, join me in about 5 minutes over on my channel, and we will get savage on these things. Thanks for showing up, and back to you, Drew.
All right. And again, I want to say God bless you, folks. I love you guys, and we will see you soon. I promise you that.
Peace.
Peace.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, hi, Coast Casino.
Hey, welcome to Sporking News Podcast. My name is Scott.
I'm E. Temple Queen of the Place to Be Reviews.
I am the Patriot True Taylor, aka Supreme Heretic.
The Red Gaze on YouTube, at the Red Gaze on Twitter.
What up, what up, what up?
Hello, everybody. It's me, Vinny.
The voice of Immortal Coil.
Oh, hey, I am the Ghost Bear.
What's going on, Tommy? You didn't get anybody to like this?
Yeah, I'm Wes Moody of the Wes Moody Webcast.
Tone Death rocking.
We have a lot of cool things over there. I did some magic tricks.
Hi guys, try to stay here.
My name is Monkey Knight.